once you learn how to sell and you're confident in your skills, you can sell pretty much anything. And online sales isn't really any different. It's just focusing on what works and how to connect with people and customers and how to get them to trust your brand. And, one way that we got people to trust us was that we offered a quality product. We offered brands that were well known and had good customer reviews, and also that had a really strong mission and moral statement and that do good for the community. So it was an easy choice for customers to trust us.
Hey y'all, welcome to Selling with Social, the podcast that helps marketers increase marketing qualified leads, sales reps to shatter sales results, and sales leaders to grow as leaders. Each show, we interview sales, marketing, and social media practitioners, leaders, and influencers to help you connect, close more deals, build stronger relationships with clients, and improve your sales productivity. I'm Mario Martinez Jr. You're now listening to Selling with Social. Candice Galek, I am so happy to have you on Selling with Social with me today. This is going to be a fantastic episode, and a lot of our listeners are going to get some really great stuff out of you. Thank you for joining me today on Selling with Social.
Thank you for having me, Mario. I'm super pumped.
Awesome. So you have an amazing story, and I'm privileged to actually sit here and talk about this. Former model, CEO now of Bikini Luxe. You've made it to the Forbes 30 under 30 list, and you're an ink columnist. Is there anything that you don't do?
Although I'm really good at sports, I suck at basketball. So you might have me beat there.
I love it. Okay, so no basketball for you. Fantastic. Well, Candice, do us a favor. We've got sales, we've got marketers, we've got sales enablement folks that are listening to the podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us your story, who you are, where you came from, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Yes. I started out, I grew up in Florida, South Florida, and I was raised on the beach, essentially. So I guess that's kind of where swimwear tied in the future, was that I had grown up swimming in the waves and splashing around, and I had always worn swimwear. And I think a lot of Florida girls can attest to always wanting to own your own bikini line or whatever it may be. I think most women want that, actually. So in my mid-20s, I decided that I didn't want to work for someone else anymore, and that I wanted to create my own business, my own company, and have my own rules and be able to wear whatever I wanted to wear and do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. So I said, hey, what opportunities do I have and what am I good at? And I was a model at the time, working for a few different swimwear lines, modeling their recent collections. And I was able to use those connections that I had. And once I decided to sell swimwear online, I went back to those people and said, listen, this is what I want to do. I think I'm going to be really good at it. Would you give me the opportunity to feature your brand as one of my first brands? And honestly, it just went on from there, and I was able to reach out to larger brands with those as references almost, because in the beginning, no one wants to sell you their product because you don't exist.
Right.
You don't really benefit them in any way. So once I had those first few brands under my belt, I was able to go to larger brands and say, hey, listen, I have XYZ and I'm doing all right. Let me try your brand. And that's where it really took off.
Very interesting. So how long were you modeling for?
Just a few years. I wasn't necessarily a supermodel or anything like that. It was something that I did for fun on the side. It was a great experience, and it really made a lot of friendships, and those turned into business relationships.
So for all of our listeners, those in sales, they're wondering, why did I bring Candice on the show here? And I think the story that you've got here is pretty impressive, right? So you were doing work, you were following a passion, a hobby, an interest, and you decided, wait a minute, tell me if I'm wrong. I want to do something a little different here. I want to control my own destiny. I want to be able to launch my own business. I want to try something. And so you took modeling and you went to the industry that you knew, connected with individuals who you were already working with, and said, I'd like to be able to sell your products online, which was another channel of distribution. And they, of course, said, absolutely. Is that how the story goes?
Pretty much, yeah. They gave me the opportunity in the beginning to sell their brands. They were already selling online, so it's not like they weren't doing it. It's just that it
Sure.
was another way. And I think that in person, I'm a pretty good salesman. I can really pitch you because you can feel the intensity and the passion and the drive. So I love pitching people in person. That's probably my favorite thing to do. But they believed in me and they trusted me, and they really didn't have anything to lose. If I failed, then whatever, they move on. They continue to do business, but they gave me that opportunity, and I steered them in the right direction, and I proved them right for doing so.
So model turns entrepreneur, and then entrepreneur starts actually having some success, which then you so brilliantly did exactly what we teach in sales, which is you get one customer and you take that and you start growing the customer list by going from the small fry to the medium fry to the large fry, if you would. And you start talking about your success with the previous, which lands you the next big kahuna, big client. And in your case, it was the next big brand because you were distributing these other ones and showcasing success, right?
Yeah, and at that time, this is like, I would say we're 3 years old now. So about 3 years ago, I did see success early on with different social shopping websites, like Keep or Winello or Winilo, however you say it. Things like that where women are on there actively searching for products and shopping. And we saw success there because we figured out how to get products to trend. And once those products trended on those platforms and they were seen by all their users, and once they were seen by all the users, your sales increased. So that's really where Bikini Luxe started, in that I didn't take on any investment. So it was a bootstrapped business, and getting those first initial sales via trending products really helped us to grow more quickly and invest in more inventory and all that.
Gotcha. So tell me about Bikini Luxe. We've heard about where it started at. Tell me where it's at today.
Bikini Luxe is first and foremost an online retailer that sells women's swimwear, accessories, clothing, pretty much anything you would need if you were going on vacation. And it started out as a small website with a few brands that were mostly based in Florida. And we had not a huge selection, like I only sold what I liked. And as a business owner, you quickly learn that there are plenty of people out there who have different opinions and don't only want what you have to offer.
Sure.
So you start to expand. And we now have brands that are based all over the world. Colombia, we have brands that are based in Canada, in Switzerland, and California even. So it's a little different now, and we have a much wider selection of products in terms of sizes, where in the beginning we were like extra small to medium, and now we're extra small to even like an E and an F cup, which is actually really popular when it comes to swimwear. I think now we have over 4,000 products on the website on any given day, and we're adding new stuff each day. So it's definitely grown in scale, and we're really working on keeping our customer base happy and loyal because there's a lot of competition out there. So figuring out how to stand out among the crowd is a fun challenge.
Yeah. So how do you do it? You think about this, you've grown. You didn't have any experience as a CEO running a business before, correct?
No, not at all.
So it was at the School of Hard Knocks. I mean, like, how did you figure it all out? Because I think Bikini Luxe is a fairly known online distributor and retailer, right?
Yeah, so what I did is what I think a lot of people do when they're starting out. They have questions and they want to ask them. So I Googled everything. Every question I had, even as ridiculous as it was, Google has an answer for it. So there's YouTube tutorials and there's people's blogs, and they've been there and they've done it. And then also, you go to different platforms like LinkedIn, and you ask people for advice and help. And sometimes people who have experienced the same things in sales will give you their advice and kind of lead you in the right direction. So it was a lot of asking and learning. And I spent hours and hours just not sleeping at night and just learning as much as I could and soaking it up. And I think that that's what everyone should do when they start a business. Like, you can't assume that you know everything, because I'll tell you, I still learn something new every single day. And being an entrepreneur is fun, and it is what you make it. So I think the business grew because I focused, and my goal was to become the largest swimwear retailer in the world. And the only way to do that is to be proactive.
And how close are you to that goal?
We are really close. Last I checked, we were number 3 and growing. So I would say by the end of the year, it's a possibility.
Well, round of applause to you and for our listeners. I mean, this is an amazing story. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted you, Candice, on the show here, because this is a fantastic story of someone really just following out their passion. And then that passion all of a sudden turning into a slight dream. And then all of a sudden that dream turning into like a major reality. Like you're now the number 3 online bikini retailer that's out there. That's like fantastic. And it's now landed you a couple really amazing accolades. Forbes 30 under 30. If I'm not mistaken, you're on that list there, correct?
Yep, I am one of the featured honorees on the list for 2017, which I'm super excited about still. I don't know. I don't know if I will ever get over that, but
It's a huge accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Even the way that I found out was so amazing because I was traveling abroad and I was touring a coffee plantation, and we ended up staying the night at the coffee plantation because it was really rainy and it was kind of difficult to get to and from. So once it got dark, we were like, oh, we'll just stay here because they had these nice little houses you could rent out. And the next day when we were leaving, there had been this horrible rainfall. So there was mudslides and roads were blocked and there's no Wi-Fi and my GPS wasn't working and we ran out of gas.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So all these roads, every road that we knew to go to was closed down. So we'd take another one. The gas was on empty, like the very bottom of empty. And we rolled into this gas station and the woman says, I'm sorry, but we're out of gas. The truck didn't make it because of the road closures. So I was like, what do we do? And she's like, well, just put your car in neutral and roll down the hill for 6 miles. And there's a gas station at the bottom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So as this is happening, I get like the tiniest bit of Wi-Fi because I got an alert from one of my my assistants telling me that Forbes had reached out to me and they needed an answer from me within 24 hours. So I get this email and I'm trying to answer these questions as we're coasting down this treacherous like 1-lane highway on the side of the road with mudslides. And that's how I found out. My heart was like pounding out of my chest. It was exciting. I was like trying to high five and drive at the same time. It was horrible.
And type at the same time on a 1-lane road.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a
Luckily,
crazy
I made
story.
it.
That's fantastic. I love that story. So you saw that and you were like, well, you needed to respond to that. The only thing I would have said is what happened if your internet connectivity on your phone shut off? How could you go backwards? You would have to have hoofed that backwards.
Right? I would have just ran down the hill barefoot.
Exactly. It's an interesting story. So I want to touch base on, there's a lot of folks that are out there that have always thought about starting their own business. And as you know, I'm 1 year into the launch of M3 Junior Growth Strategies. And entrepreneurship has just been one of the, I would say, absolutely the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. And I've been in business this is my 20th year in sales. And there has been nothing harder than starting the company and making it go and seeing results from that. But you said something earlier that I want to come back to, and I want to touch base on this here in this topic. You said that whenever you had a question, you would Google it. You would take time from your sleep, I think is what I heard you say, and that you would spend time learning and that you would educate yourself. And then the other thing you said is that you would ask. Would you say for those that are entrepreneurs listening to this podcast right now, those that are salespeople that are interested in following their dreams, and or you're in sales and you just want to climb the corporate ladder, would you say that formula that you just described is different in any of those scenarios that I mentioned, entrepreneurship, climb the corporate ladder, or to grow your business?
I'm not sure. I would say that educating yourself and doing your due diligence and then asking difficult questions to those who have great advice is something that is an option for everyone in any situation. One thing that I did was I educated myself, and once I could not find an answer for something, that's when I really asked somebody else, because I get a lot of questions on a daily basis, and sometimes I just want to tell people to Google it. Like you have to kind of do your own work. You can't expect someone else to do it for you.
Sure.
But no, I would say that it's a well-rounded kind of routine for any field. I get people asking me questions who are not just starting their own e-commerce business, but that maybe they are a writer or maybe they are... I get people in the tech world a lot who, even inventors, just these people that are just so creative and so driven. But I would say that doing your due diligence and learning as much as you can about your field is key to success. And anyone who doesn't take the time to do that probably won't be successful unless they're extremely lucky.
What any top lessons that you'd give to entrepreneurs or salespeople of things that you learned over the last 3 years in building your company from, by the way, a woman who didn't have any experience of being a CEO, right? And now you've built up the third largest online retailer here for women's wear. Like, what advice would you give somebody to say, if you want to excel, if you want to grow, this is what I've learned, like the top 3 lessons I've learned over the last 3 years?
I would say one would be to make friends and to nurture those friendships and relationships and be able to leverage those when you need them most. Like something that I've done with a lot of the connections that I've built up over the years is offer them something in return. You don't want to be parasitic, but at the same time, you need to create business relationships that are beneficial and that can help you grow. And along the way, you will stumble upon those, but you can't just bother them once you need something. You need to kind of keep up with them and offer them something in return. So nurturing connections is something that's really important. I would say also making whatever it is you're doing your focus. So a lot of people reach out to me and they say that, if my job falls through, one day I'll just sell clothes online. It's no big deal, as if it's going to be super simple and it works for everyone. And that's not the case. And early on, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I still do it sometimes. I pull 18-hour days, working my butt off, doing as much as possible, and continuing to learn. So I'd say focus on your business. That's really key. You can't expect that it's going to get done if you keep it as a part-time job. And I would say always remembering to look towards the future and not getting stuck on the everyday things and learning how to outsource and how to delegate is really key when you're learning to be a CEO. That's something that I struggled with, and I put everything on my plate, and stuff just wasn't getting done in a timely manner. It wasn't getting done properly. I was tired, I was overworked, and some things deserve your attention and are worth your attention more than others. So learning to delegate is key to growth.
That's fantastic advice for anybody who's listening, entrepreneurs, especially, and sales folks. You mentioned nurture and leverage, and we talk about this in sales, especially on the social side. And the new way to actually engage with your buyers is give to get, right? So you talked about, you're going to nurture these relationships, you're going to leverage these relationships. And if you're going to ask for help, make sure that you've helped them along the way as well, right? Don't just ask them for help all of a sudden one day. And you're just like, well, who are you again?
Right.
So nurture those relationships by giving. And I think that's the same principle in sales as well, is you've got to give to get. And I think that's interesting you mentioned that. The other one you mentioned is make it your focus. And I talk a lot about this, is to be great, you have to work hard and you have to learn, right? And so it doesn't just happen. There are times in people's careers that stuff just lands on their plate, right? And it just happens. But in most cases, I think most people who make something from nothing, it's because they worked hard and they were willing to learn. They were a student of learning. And I think we talked about that earlier. And then this one, which I have a problem with, outsourcing and delegating. I don't have a problem looking towards the future. I really can see that. And I think a lot of sales folks, a lot of sales leaders who are listening, I think we definitely can see the future. The problem is we get caught up in the now. And we're not open to letting it go and letting someone else do their job and delegating that responsibility because we want to make sure it's perfect. And so I think you hit the nail on the head, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a sales leader, like all these principles that you're talking about, Candice, do apply. And that's fantastic advice. Thanks for giving that to us.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of my experience was in sales, and I say I could sell you anything. When I was a teenager, I worked at a lawn care company and I sold grass treatments, and I was the best at it. I could sell grass treatments to anyone. And once you learn how to sell and you're confident in your skills, you can sell pretty much anything. And online sales isn't really any different. It's just focusing on what works and how to connect with people and customers and how to get them to trust your brand. And, one way that we got people to trust us was that we offered a quality product. We offered brands that were well known and had good customer reviews, and also that had a really strong mission and moral statement and that do good for the community. So it was an easy choice for customers to trust us. And I'm thankful that it spiraled from there on, and that Bikini Luxe became bigger than I ever imagined it would be. And I still learn stuff every day. Like I'm super excited to continue learning. I know that I have like a stack of books on my desk right now that just came in, and I can't wait to break into them.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I have that same stack of one. This is just three of them. These are the three I can grab in my hand right here. But I've got two more sitting on my desk that they're just piling in from all of these sales influencers. I wish I had time to read every page of them, but I'm quite overwhelmed with all the reading.
I am in the same boat as you. I know that I mentioned on LinkedIn that I enjoyed reading, and which book should I read and which book are you reading? And I just got flooded with all of these books, which is great, but it's almost like it's too much.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I had all the time in the day to do it, but reading is, I'm a big blog reader, and I love to read blogs as opposed to books. But now in my space as a podcaster, as well as an influencer, people are asking to, help with their books. So I have to be selective on all the books that I'm taking part of. But I want to move into something and how I actually found you. And this is an interesting story. It's an interesting discussion. And it all stems from, for those of you listening, I actually found you and saw content coming from LinkedIn. And I will tell you that some of the things that I saw, I was like, what? Why is this on LinkedIn? Like, what? It didn't make any sense. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a picture of a woman in swimwear. And I was just like, oh, this is ridiculous. I cannot believe that LinkedIn's resorted to this. But then what I did was I was like, who is this Candice person? And I clicked into your profile, and I had an aha moment. It's like especially like this, I'm the social selling guy, right? Like, I had an aha moment, which was, wait a minute. My industry, of which I sell to normally, does not obviously provide bikini wear. But you were the CEO of Bikini Luxe, which meant that content that you were going to share to your community who was interested in it was related to your products and services. In this case, bikini wear. So I remember I almost was going to report it as spam, and I had an aha moment saying, no, wait a minute. This is her product. This is what she does. This is her livelihood. And so now it made all the sense in the world why you would be posting content. But I'm not sure everybody else agreed with me, and you've had a hard time leveraging the professional network, LinkedIn. Is that right?
Well, LinkedIn and I have a love-hate relationship.
Tell us about that. I want to hear about that.
So first and foremost, I started my LinkedIn account just to enter the professional world. As we discussed, I was learning how to be a CEO. I was learning how to be a manager. I was learning how to run a company. And I wanted to be taken more seriously, and I wanted to be viewed as a business professional, which is really difficult to do when you're a 5'5" blonde woman who looks 10 years younger than she is almost sometimes, and no one really takes you seriously. So I got on LinkedIn and I started posting the same content that I was posting on all of our other platforms. We were getting millions of hits on Pinterest every month with these images, and we were successful and trending on shopping platforms, and our social media following was growing. So I was like, oh, let's just go on to LinkedIn and I'll meet some new people, maybe connect with some new brands. And what happened was that people started talking about it. They started commenting on the photos that I was posting and liking and sharing all sorts of weird stuff. And what happened was the conversation turned away from, oh, hi, Candice, nice to meet you, but to, what is this doing on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
I don't understand why I'm looking at bikinis while I'm at work, and this is not appropriate. Or women saying that the coverage options were not appropriate. And then we started getting a little more conversation where people would click in, like you said, and said, hey, wait, this totally makes sense. Why she's here selling a product, and she's the CEO of a swimwear company. So what happened was that it got a lot of traction and a lot of engagement, which is what you want on social media.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people view LinkedIn as some platform that people get a lot of traction on. And the brain processes images 60,000 times faster than words, which is why I use so many images in my posts. And I'm really just trying to get people to pay attention.
Yeah.
People don't want to pay attention on social media anymore. They're scrolling. They don't click through to figure out what's going on. But what I liked about LinkedIn was that when people commented, whether it was positive or negative, that it was then shown to all of their followers and connections. So then those people were seeing my post and they were not connected to me. And they were very curious as to what was going on, why they were seeing swimwear, and they wanted to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So it just naturally kind of went viral almost because so many people were talking about it. And it got to the point where, like you said, people were reporting the images because they didn't want to see them. And the more popular that I got, the more times I would get reported because they weren't my friend. They weren't a connection of mine. And they didn't understand why they couldn't stop seeing me and what I was posting. So, and a lot of people thought that they were pictures of myself. They didn't take the time to even look at my profile picture, which clearly had blonde hair, and the girl that I was posting had black hair. They were just like, oh, why would you take pictures of yourself like this and post them on LinkedIn? So it was just very strange. And we got people going back and forth, either defending what I was doing or going against it. And I did get deleted a couple of times because I was being reported so much. So the question that I asked LinkedIn was, well, if there are 500 people commenting and the majority of them at this point are positive, why are my posts being deleted, or why is my account being deleted, essentially suspended, because it's reported a handful of times? Like, why is the minority ruling over the majority, and why is there not a better option for them than reporting? Because I had people asking me, how do I just stop seeing you? I just don't want to see, I don't want to be connected anymore because it's just too much. Every time I log in, you're there. So I started making really helpful posts about how to kind of like disconnect and how to figure out what they want to see and what they don't want to see on LinkedIn. But, long story short, it was amazing in that it afforded me a lot of new connections and business relationships and opportunities. And, I was in Forbes, I think, 9 times last year, 2016, and Huffington Post and NBC and all these other just amazing news platforms because of going viral on LinkedIn. And from that stemmed more opportunities and more brand awareness and more growth. What really shocked me was the number of people on the platform that were telling me that what I was doing was wrong.
Yeah.
These people who were marketing guru and sales professional and XYZ and just saying, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. Why are you on LinkedIn so much? This isn't going to amount to anything. You're not going to see any increase in sales. You're hurting your brand. And just so many people taking 3 seconds out of their day to be negative and tell me that what I was doing was wrong and not looking to see what was really happening. Our sales were increased by 20%. Our male customer base was higher than ever. I was being featured in different news outlets more than I had ever been in my entire career. And out of that came more opportunities. So learning to turn those opportunities into legitimate business transactions and growing from it was tremendous.
So we should basically thank all the naysayers.
Yeah.
who basically every time they said you suck or this shouldn't be on there or why is this is inappropriate, they amplified it across their network. Which is what I love about LinkedIn. That's one of the things I love most is that if you engage and if you comment, if you can drive commentary, if you can drive likes, you can actually drive amplification. And that is exactly what happened here. I mean, like, this is the quintessential example of social selling and social engagement at its finest. And what I love about this story is I was one of those folks that I saw and I was like, why on LinkedIn am I seeing women in bikini wear? But I had the sense to just click in to see who is Candice. And when I did it, it was, and that, like as I said earlier, the aha moment, like, wait a minute. There exists more in the professional community than just people who are selling into tech and the traditional industries, right? It exists
Right.
many, many more people. And namely, you were the CEO of your company. It made sense. And so I think that's what people need to stop and think about. I see this a lot now where people are posting something and there's this big long string of people who are commenting like, why is this on LinkedIn? This is inappropriate for LinkedIn. Remove this off. Well, first off, people, those of you listening, when you comment, you amplify. So keep it going is what I'd say if you want to amplify the message.
It's true. And, I coined this term recently because of my experiences and just, I always sat back and watched and I kept a very neutral stance. I would never attack anybody, even if some of the things they said to me were absolutely terrible. I just let other people do the talking for me. But what I learned was that there are two types of people on LinkedIn and in general, I guess, on social media. There are the people who comment, they kind of shoot from the hip and they just say what's on their mind and they don't really think about anything, any repercussions, any reasoning. They just kind of just blurt it out there. And then there are the people who click in and they take a look around and they make an informed decision and then they comment. And with those two people, when you can pair them together, which occurs on LinkedIn because you have a lot of really intelligent people on there, when you pair those two types of people together, you get a lot of interaction because the group that shoots from the hip, they just comment. And the well-informed group, they want to comment back and either point out how and why those people are wrong or try to explain why they themselves are correct or defend the person. So I essentially got to pair those two people together, and by remaining neutral, allowed people to defend me and allowed them to want to defend me because they said, hey, this is just a nice girl doing business. Why are you attacking her? My followers lost business. Some people said, hey, I lost a client today because I shared one of your posts and they didn't agree with it. So they said they weren't going to be doing business with me anymore. Huh. Or a doctor, some woman said that she was going to report him to the board and have him lose his license because he had liked one of my posts. And apparently that was the end all be all for her. So I know. So, I felt really terrible that these people who were so supportive of me were suffering essentially to help me grow and to back me up. So yeah. I knew that I had to make something of it and that it shouldn't just all be for nothing. It shouldn't just be just for the drama of it. And that's when I started working on those connections and asking them to do things for me, like nominate me for the Forbes 30 under 30. It really helps when you get a lot of nominations and when they're by super influential people. So using some of those, it really skyrocketed me onto that list. And even now, I want to do a TED Talk. So I said, hey guys, listen, here's the link for the nomination form for the TED Talks. I would really like to do one. If you'd like to hear it, please nominate me. And we broke the submission form. So you can leverage a social media network in your favor as long as they trust you and want to be a part of what you're doing.
Yeah. So, if you think about this, break this down to a salesperson selling into corporate. For those of you that are listening, there's some really key nuggets inside here. And one of them is the power of amplification. And Candice said something. Candice, you used this and it was just, you thought through what do people want to see? And it was imagery, right? And you mentioned, what was the stat earlier? You process images 60% faster than text. Is that what you said?
60,000 times faster.
60,000 times faster. Mm-hmm. And so some of the things that I teach in our social selling training programs is, think about this. Candice, you answer this question here. When you're sitting there scrolling on social media, what are the two things that you stop at first before anything else? You said
pictures and video.
Boom, right there. Images and video, which is interesting because marketers know that one of their top 5 marketing tactics is to engage with video. But the crazy part is how many salespeople are engaging with video themselves with their clients or prospects. And it goes from, if you were to see like the numbers are super, super high as a marketing tactic and super, super low for the sales guys and gals, right? So it doesn't make sense. So I think those of you who are listening, take this note that imagery and videos is what's going to help you catch your buyer's attention. And in this case, did you land as an ink columnist as a result of all of this, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. The posts that I was putting out on LinkedIn were getting so much traction, and it was just a natural fit almost because I had an entrepreneurial kind of business-minded following, and my text posts, not only updates, but even the longer form at that point were getting some good traction. So I said, I've always wanted to write, and I don't necessarily have any formal education when it comes to writing, but I can write about my experiences and what I've learned, which would help me to share with my followers and anyone who is coming up and wants to do the same thing that I did. So I wanted a column, and I didn't just want to be a contributor. I always say to aim high. So I said, hey, listen, I don't want to just contribute to Inc. I want to be a columnist, and here's a sample of my work, and here's some of the interaction that I'm getting. And I definitely had some help there. I had someone who I actually had met on LinkedIn. He went over my first draft and told me kind of what I should change about it. And he really helped me to kind of make it look good so that when I did submit it to them, I wouldn't just be denied right away. He kind of gave me some insight on that field. So yeah, I definitely got it because of LinkedIn. And I really enjoy it even now. I'm on there all the time.
Well, first off, I commend you because not everybody can figure out how to connect the dots on the power of social media, power of branding, the power of amplification, remaining neutral when you're being attacked. Which, by the way, I saw that. I mean, I saw this on social media, and I remember when I started looking at some of your content. I think we connected because somebody told you that you should probably connect with me, right? But I had seen who you were, and I had seen this content, and I thought, well, geez, I mean, like, I want to get Candice. I want to figure out a way to we can get Candice on our podcast on Selling with Social, because it just made sense. Like, everything you're doing happened organically, and you started using these opportunities to really grow your brand and to amplify your message. And it's exactly what we teach sales reps. So congratulations on that for sure. I love the tidbits that you gave today on being focused, being hungry, working hard for the entrepreneur and for the salesperson, leverage the social networks to be able to display imagery, videos, and then also the neutrality. That's one of my biggest problems. When someone comes at me, I had another influencer that actually took a tweet of mine and called it unintelligent activity, and essentially calling me stupid. Right. Yeah. So that's essentially translation, AKA that I was stupid, that my actions were stupid. And the interesting part about it was the individual was pretty bold. They took the tweet and they quoted it. So I obviously got notified that they took my tweeting and made the bold statement that I was that this was an unintelligent act and it was a social selling spam activity. And I decided I wasn't going to hold back. So it resulted in an interesting conversation. But for other people, you've got to be willing, especially when you get into the social area, you've got to be willing to let your followers help battle things out for you. By the way, where do you stand with LinkedIn now? I know they've shut down your account. They've taken off some of your posts. Have they figured out that you actually are the CEO of a real company and that you service a different industry than essentially tech?
Well, it's much more calm now. I think ever since that whole Microsoft takeover, things have been a little different. When it was first happening, they didn't really know how to handle it, and they told me that they had assembled a 13-man team to handling me and dealing with my profile and my
problem.
My problem, yeah, because I had, besides having all of those people providing their opinion, I also had issues with the platform because it wasn't meant for that much interaction, and my notifications weren't coming through. They were coming through too quickly, so I literally couldn't see anything. I couldn't see any notifications. I was missing messages. I was missing connection requests. They ended up giving me my own follow button because it was just getting absurd, and I think I was one of the only non-Lion, LION.
Yeah, Lion,
people,
the networker.
The LinkedIn Open Networkers. I was I had a follow button like them, but I wasn't one, and they let me know it. Everything is good now. I use the platform, and it's continuing to grow, and I have more of a following than ever before. But ever since that takeover, it's been pretty quiet on their end. So I'm happy. I have an account. I can't really complain.
Well, Microsoft clearly has kept them busy. So a couple final questions for you. One, if someone wants to get a hold of you, connect with you, contact you, what's the best way to do that?
I would say that on LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect with me. And also check out Bikini Luxe, www.bikinilux.com. But also I'm really active on Twitter. I just started out. So on Twitter, I'm Bikini Geek, and Facebook, of course. I'm all over the place. You can find me anywhere.
Awesome. And I always ask this question of all my guests, all-time favorite movie. What is it?
Minority Report.
Minority Report. Okay, that's the first one I've gotten that one. Why Minority Report?
Well, in its time, it was really advanced. I really liked it, and I still really like. I mean, I would have assumed that more of that would have happened already, but I like the whole criminal justice / technology / futuristic love story kind of deal. So I just always loved Minority Report, and I have the DVD. It's one of the few DVDs that I have.
I love it. Well, it wasn't because it was with Tom Cruise, huh?
It's not because of Tom Cruise.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, Candice, you have been an awesome participant on Selling with Social. I want to thank you for joining with us. And thank you so much. Again, you've got an amazing story, and I really appreciate you joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
You're very welcome, dear. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Selling with Social podcast. I'm super pumped that you are our guest today. Here's what I want you to do right now. Go to jr.com/podcast and support our podcast, please, by distributing it out anywhere you can get it to on social. And don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes. You'll find all the instructions there on the site on how to subscribe to the Selling with Social podcast. Until the next show, keep on rocking. Mario Martinez Jr. out.